Hey there, it's Jennifer with Scraps of Life. How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, February 20th, and this would be if I'm not mistaken, the 7-week Return to Creativity update. So, yeah, I'm recording on a Saturday instead of Sunday, as had become my habit, because I had to be up and dressed and functional this morning for a Saturday. There was a safety meeting with our truck drivers, so I had to go do that. And then I came home and worked on some stuff. Recap of some good news for the week. The roof went on. Yay! Yep. The weather held off in this neck of the woods. I know. Oh, speaking of weather, oh God, the whole snowstorm and blizzard or in unexpected places, that's just, oof. I'm thankful that Georgia was spared, even though I'd love to maybe see a little bit of snow again, but a little bit. Yeah, I'm so glad that we're not dealing with that, and I'm glad that at the time of this recording, things are improving, though I know there's still so much left to kind of pick up the pieces out there. But yeah, so everything in perspective, right? But back to here, the roof went on. I'm impressed by the roofing contractors. They did it in a day, a single day. We left the house around 7 a.m., so I'm not quite sure when they arrived, but by the time Todd drove by around lunchtime or so, they, were already, replacing boards that had, under the shingles that had become, I guess, rotted or otherwise damaged. And we're putting on the new underlayment, and by the time I got home, I guess a little after 6:30 maybe, they were blowing the debris off and finishing cleanup, and it was done. I'm so grateful that it did get done this week. A couple days after it was done, it rained again, and oh, how nice it was not to have water inside the house. Yeah, so that got done. Yay! We're still cautiously optimistic because, we got way burned by our original contractor, which if y'all were around or go back in the archives, there's a playlist called the Gingerbread Diaries. That was when we were doing a lot more on the house, and maybe that's the next thing that will be resurrected is the Gingerbread Diaries when we are able to start moving forward again with work on the house. Having the ongoing leak in the hallway and therefore in the bathroom that was the first place we chose to renovate, yeah, that put that put a damper on things. Pun very much unintended, but very apt. And Todd continued with it in fits and starts. Every time we thought we'd get the roof taken care of, maybe we'd done something. No, it just would destroy all the work that he had done. So yeah, we're cautiously optimistic. We're kind of feeling a little like we might need to wait another rain or two just to be certain. Just to be certain. Oh gosh, maybe that's just us being a little gun shy. Anyway, so that got done. I got 2/3 of my seeds ordered, or the seed order that I placed. These actually came via Amazon. Yes, I was looking at other seed companies, but then I saw this article about this survival garden seed packets, or seed set. Heirloom seeds, which are great. Heirloom seeds, from my understanding, heirloom seeds are in a lot of cases more flavorful, and they're just kind of tried and tested and true. And for if you're worried about GMO, which I kind of go back and forth, to be honest. I mean, It depends on the level of GMO, on the modifications. There's reasons for doing some things, others, you know, who knows? I don't know. We're never 100% sure, but these are non-GMO, open pollinated, all natural. Well, I mean, they're seeds, but there's 32 different types of seeds in this one package. And I think that's cool for space saving. This is, you know, it's called Survival Garden. So you can imagine that it's also something that you might keep on hand for, you know, emergency situations, you know, worst case scenarios where you then are really, you have to grow things, you know, to kind of survive or to sustain yourself. But when I was looking through the list of the seeds included, I was like, oh, well, you know, that covers a lot of what I'd been planning already. So we'll give it a try, you know, after you know, I'm up for trying things, you know. One thing that was surprising but yet makes total sense is that the seeds come in these small little resealable plastic bags rather than the paper seed envelopes that you get anywhere else, which are, you know, probably 3 times the size overall, but they still have the same amount of seeds on average in one of those packets. So it's space saving. So I appreciate that. Less waste. Yeah, so I'm interested to see how this works out. It's still a little early to even start the seeds. And then along with the seeds, did I take it out? I think I did. Let me check, see if, along with the seeds, there's this little growth guide, which this has all the information, just in a more condensed style that the seed packets themselves would have. So this, plus a couple of good gardening references, probably would cover, you know, the bases you're going to need. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised already, and or pleasantly pleased. Pleasantly pleased, is that redundant? Anyway, I'm pleased so far with this purchase. And yeah, like I said, this was on Amazon. Also, since I was there, and I'm like, you know, I also found this 12 herbs seeds pack, non-GMO heirloom seeds again. Again, 12 herbs, some of which, you know, are the ones that I was already planning on planting, and a couple that I'd kind of forgotten about and certainly wouldn't hurt to have. Again, with these particular seeds, they're supposed to, if they're stored correctly, then they're actually supposed to be good for a decent amount of time. So, you know, we'll see. Now, the one thing I did notice about the herb seed packets is that there was a little bit of inconsistency with how well they were filled. Like, here's dill. Get that away from the glare. So you see how much is in there. And it's not just seed size. Like, this is oregano. You can see how much is in there. Yeah, not a lot. And these are tiny seeds. I get that. But then you got mint. You know, I think when I showed this to Todd, he was like, oh my God, is there anything in there? There are, but it's not a lot. So maybe there's some inconsistencies with the amount of seed distribution among the packets, but, you know, I can work with that. It was not, it wasn't something that was going to be a kind of a full-on deal breaker for me. So, you know, we'll go with it. And then I have one other pouch of seeds coming, and it's specifically, excuse me, it is, sorry, some of the herb seeds are fragrant because they smell like, you know, the plants they came from, and it was kind of tickling my nose a little bit, or my throat in that case. That was a... Okay, so the other set of seeds I have coming is a tea garden. Not a tea bush, so I won't have, like, be growing my own tea leaves, but herbs and flowering plants that frequently go into teas. So it can be added to teas or can be used as a tisane or something like that. Yeah, I'm gonna plant some of those. I was really tempted to buy like a wildflower flower mix, maybe to put in the front yard somewhere, or the butterfly garden mixes, and I might do that later on. But for now, I held off. For now, I held off. But yeah, those seemed kind of fun. But the one thing that I found with the ones I was looking at, they just were a mixture of seeds. You weren't like planting and spacing and stuff like that. So that I wasn't as interested in. Let's see, what else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, okay. So I wanted to mention, I mean, about the week in general. So yeah, the roof, the seeds, those were some of like the ongoing background things that I mentioned last week. I have the actual creative projects still to show you, the two projects I've been working on. But before I do that, I wanted to kind of just mention, because so if this is the first video you're seeing, or, you know, if you've forgotten why I'm doing this, why I revived this channel and started making these videos again, the end of last year I was diagnosed with ADHD. It's something I've always had, but something I was naturally coping with one way or another, generally positively, although there were some habits, retail therapy, that I now know had a little bit more to do with just not realizing that I was dopamine seeking and looking for, you know, and dealing with frontal lobe impulse control kind of things. I mean, and it's not just kind of the funny haha retail therapy ha 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 thing. It's also like my propensity for running into door frames because I turn before it's actually time to turn, or my klutziness when I realize I need to grab something but I don't. My frontal lobe just says, boom, let's go grab for it. And I end up knocking things over because there was not that split second of navigation that happened. Apparently those are kind of common ADHD traits. And I'm like, oh, okay. I feel a little bit better about that. But what had happened was I'd been coping with everything really well, and I had been subconsciously using my creative outlets as coping mechanisms. They were keeping me on an even keel, starting new projects, finishing projects, picking up new hobbies, new interests, learning about new things. All of these things were providing the extra dopamine that my brain couldn't produce on its own. And when I got really busy at work 2 years ago, it's now been a full 2 years, yeah, I did less and less, and then I stopped almost altogether. I mean, I was still doing some things, but not regularly. And my mental health declined tremendously as a result. And so I've learned how true my statement, better living through creativity, which has been my tagline on my website, my poor little defunct website, it's still there. I just haven't updated it in, well, since 2019. I think January of 2019, I did a review. It was like the last thing I posted. Yeah, so in trying to manage my anxiety, my ADHD, etc., I've begun getting back into my creative pursuits. I've also been going to therapy because, well, that's how I got diagnosed, but that's also how I figured out what was wrong, what was missing, what I did differently, because I really thought I was losing my mind. I truly thought, it's like, oh my God, this is not me. Well, it was me, it is me. It's not the best version of me. And I knew I could be better, I knew I could do better. And so this is how I'm doing it. All that to say that therapy has really been helping. I had my most recent session yesterday, Friday, and it was the first time I've teared up and gotten emotional in the office, because we were we were touching on childhood trauma, which plays into the PTSD or complex PTSD I have from childhood stuff. It's not fun, but it has an impact. You know, when I started the Return to Creativity project and I said, okay, I need to start doing this again. I need to get back to what was working for me. I said, I made the stipulation that it had to be, you know, a minimum of 15 minutes a day. A couple times this week, 15 minutes was about all I could handle before I just, you know, I was just, oof, it was enough. That was all I could really manage. And, you know, I set the project down and I went and laid down on the sofa or chilled out or whatever. And there's a couple nights that in the last couple weeks that have just been really rough. So it was really good that I got to see my therapist this past week, and we talked about it, and we kind of know some things we got to keep addressing. Because I've been, you know, the anxiety plus the ADHD plus the trauma responses, they have all decided to gang up on me sometimes. But now I understand a little bit more about how that's working, and I'm able to further recognize what's going on, and it helps. So, you know, all that to say that, you know, the reason why I'm doing this, the reason why I'm sharing is partially for myself to kind of document what's going on, so I can look back at some point and say, okay, yeah, this is how that worked. But partially also because it was a video of someone else who had been dealing with it that helped me realize, A, what might be going on, and B, to reach out and get help. So, yeah, I will keep repeating bits and pieces of this story as time goes on, because it's important to not hide behind it, not hide behind any perceived stigma of mental health issues, any negativity. And it's important to honor the struggle as well as the victories. Yeah. So yeah, that's part of it. Work. Work is actually, I had like the first day in at least definitely this year, this calendar year, 2021, but probably the first day in at least, if not more than a year, where I did not have competing deadlines breathing down my neck, metaphorically speaking. And I barely knew what to do with myself. That was another thing we kind of had to discuss in therapy. But that's also what the meds are supposed to be helping with, helping the frontal lobe, executive function, motivation, whole thing. So it'll be interesting to see as things progress, as things continue, how well that's actually working, and if or how much we need to tinker with things. So yeah, that's going on. Okay, so specific to the creativity process, the outward creativity as opposed to the behind the scenes, the background creativity. Another Friday night, I finished another ornament ball. I haven't taken it off the last two needles yet, just because I kind of like the handle. I like having the handle, but no, I'll get it off soon. But this is the Four Hearts design of the, again, Arne and Carlos Christmas Ball Advent Calendar 2020. This is ball number 5. Although it's the third week that I've been specifically knitting one of these balls each Friday night while Todd and I catch up on TV programs. And I really like the way it came out. I was also kind of looking at it as like without, you know, if I swapped out the white color work inside the heart, you could almost make like these little white sections here, you could make them yellow and maybe fill in a couple more of the spaces at the top with the red, and you'd have strawberries on vines. And I think that's kind of cool. you know, it's kind of a versatile pattern. Yellow or even black. Some people show the seeds as being black, but yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, so there was that. And then the other project I was working on, if you'll recall, I think my prototype one is on the other side of the desk, but it's not important. I had drawn my plan for a little stuffed monkey doll, or a little stuffed animal, starting with monkey specifically. And then I made a really tiny, quick, basted together mock-up. Well, I refined that a little bit, and I spent a good part of the week, or a couple nights, going over my pattern sketches and making an actual paper pattern. Now, this is still fairly small. Again, this was so that I could make like the next prototype and make one that's actually like sewn together properly, and you know, make sure the proportions are correct and see what needs tweaking. So then I started working on that. Now, my idea has always been that these little stuffies would be made of fabric that's been crazy quilted. But for this size that I'm doing right now, sneak peek, I'm not ready to show them yet. I'm getting there. There's a story to tell. For this one, I knew that I would drive myself crazy trying to crazy quilt pieces that are only this big. So instead I grabbed a set of fat quarters, which if you're not a quilter or a sewist, then you may not know what a fat quarter is. A fat quarter is a cut of fabric. I think it technically is a quarter of a yard, and I of course don't have the dimensions with me, but it is very common in quilting fabrics, quilting cottons, to be able to buy fat quarters of fabric all in a coordinating colorway or a thematics pack or something, and you can make small quilted projects or combine several to make your quilt squares, your quilt blocks. Anyway, I had this one. I picked it up at Tuesday morning a while back, so it was probably like $2 or $3. And it's actually of the ones that I had picked up with no particular project in mind. I just thought they were cool. I was buying some other ones, and these were non-holiday themed. So these have like little, there's a brown and ivory with some blue and orange accents, and they are music themed. See, there's like records, and there's like some musical instruments and stuff. Yeah, so I grabbed it. Man alive, it was my least favorite theme pack that I had that I could just easily grab, because I mean, I've got bins of fabric, but going through them I was like, okay, I just want to grab something quick that will coordinate. And I used 4 of the 6 patterns that were in there and kind of just pieced things together pretty much randomly. And this is the first little monkey that I've come up with. But as I was putting them together, first of all, I kind of forgot what I intended. I forgot that the straight edges on the head, the rear head and the rear body were meant to go around the perimeter, not the center back. Yeah, I did that wrong on the body. Instead of having a 3-dimensional body, I ended up with kind of like a squishy pancake. I'm like, that's not what I meant to do. How did that happen? And then when I was fiddling with the head pieces, I was like, oh, I have those backwards. Here, let me undo those stitches and redo that. The other thing I noticed, I learned kind of the hard way, was this size, the body and the head are okay, but the little arms and legs, I mean, they're about as long as my finger, or not quite as long as my finger. Yeah, they're still a little too small to easily do on the sewing machine. I was thinking I could just zip right through it. Yeah, no. Instead I sat there and having to hand crank the stitches so that, you know, I'd keep the uniform. It's still a little bit quicker than hand sewing at all, but yeah, I will be glad when I get this into a larger size where I can actually use my sewing machine without chewing up the fabric. But this fabric does fray a lot, so I'm glad to know that now. I use some of those packs for masks, you know, this time last year or whenever, and I didn't have that big of a problem, but I guess the smaller fiddly sizes, yeah, that kind of made them stand out a little bit more. But I'm at a bit of an impasse. So originally, this was, the face is a little smushed. I got to work on the muzzle pattern right here. But originally, this was going to be the front of the animal, and this was the back, and I haven't attached the tail yet, because I have not yet decided which is the front and which is the back. Because originally I thought the flat pieces would be the chest, tummy area, the torso, and the face, and the curved parts would be the back. But as I was putting things together, and yes, this is a jointed, even though he's tiny, he is jointed, and that actually works really well. The head doesn't turn, but you're just going to have to imagine a face. And oh my gosh, the way the pattern fabric is lining up, it almost has eyes. I almost think that the pudgy body in front looks better. I think it looks more correct. So it's like my pattern, I was thinking I was going to have to like really rethink the face and torso front pieces. But then when I just looked at them and kind of held them up before I'd sewn anything together, I realized that I have the right pattern. I just had it the wrong way around. So that was an interesting little discovery. So yeah, his tail would kind of, you know, curl around this way maybe, and, you know, or whatever. Yeah, so I think still though, this, even if this is the back, whether it's the back or the front, I think this little section, which, if you guys want, this is the section of the pattern, I think this needs to curve in a little bit more. It doesn't need to protrude quite so much, because then we have a little pot belly there, which isn't a bad thing. It's just a little bit low. So if I have him, the original, the flat front, then he kind of sits forward naturally, which can be kind of cute. And depending on the animal that I'm making, you know, I guess if I put his tail up here, it would balance. But you know, he'll sit like that. But it also kind of gives him a much more cuddly appearance if he kind of sits back. And I am kind of liking that seam down the middle, even though my idea had been to put this, this is faux suede here, that I've used for the muzzle, the ear, the pads de paws. Yeah. But this is, you know, so there was a time when I would have been really bummed that this didn't come out completely as planned. Or even when realizing that, oh, hey, the face belongs on the other side. that would have like really messed me up. The perfectionism thing, oh, I failed. I've gotten so much better about the feeling of insta-failure, you know? And for a long time I've been, you know what, it works this way. And I'm like, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but this I want to be a little bit more secure, and I really have to get better about attaching. I mean, the head's attached, okay, but it's really kind of messy. And I need to maybe look at how to join the head better. I need to kind of look at my stuffy collection and look at how their heads are joined. I'd love to be able to like pivot the head, so I need to kind of think on that. I don't know. There's a way that can happen. I just don't know what it is yet. There is a way though. Anyway, so this size is actually kind of cute. This is really small. I don't know that I have a anything to measure with. Well, okay, we can do this. So the 8.5 inch sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11. So it's about, it's about half, so about 5.5, 6 inches tall, seated, maybe. Standing up, not that he would be able to stand up on his own. Okay, maybe he's like 7-ish inches long total. That's not a bad size. It's a little small for the crazy quilting, although I probably still could do some, especially like on the tummy, the back, and the back of the head maybe. The patched together, the pieced together fabrics for the arms and legs actually I think work. And again, the tail, I wasn't sure which side to put it on. So yeah, the tail is kind of, it's on its own. But yeah, so it's really interesting how this design process is going, but that's the whole point of a prototype, is figuring it out. But yeah, I kind of like this. And in fact, with the color choices and the no face on it yet, and like the just like general stuffy, this almost, because of the little fluff I've put up on top, the little hair cowlick thing, it actually almost makes me think of a cow, because those almost are horns. Like if I fold one back, it could be a little cow. And actually I kind of love that, because it means that my prototype, my pattern, my base pattern is on its way to being super versatile, because I have so many ideas for different critters. And so this is making me really happy. I just finished this. I wanted to get at least this much done before I filmed today, and this makes me incredibly happy. Like, I can't tell you how I was a little like anxious and antsy when I got home today after the meeting and lunch and stuff, and I couldn't put, I had no discernible, no concrete reason why. I was just tense, I was agitated, I was anxious. Sometimes that happens. But this, focusing on this, having something to do with my hands and having something to show for it, even having to, you know, stuff and then hand sew the openings and put them together. And I know the face isn't quite right, but I still think the face is kind of cute for just kind of something, a prototype, a little stand-in. He's got a little nose and eyes and eyebrows. This makes me so happy. I might have several prototypes before I decide on my first final figure, but this makes me so happy. This also represents several nights of work. It was one night just to cut out the pattern pieces, and you're thinking, okay, there's not that many, it's pretty small, but I was also cutting extras in case I flubbed one up. And one of my things is, why make one when I can make a dozen? No, I did not make a dozen of him. I just made the one, but I do have some extra limbs. Like I said, if I messed up, I needed spares. Also, I kind of randomly matched the fabrics up, so I'm like, okay, well, maybe if it's too alike, maybe I want to swap some out, maybe I want to do this or that. Yeah, but to pull on like my SCA, SCA history, the term for a garment or anything that was split down the middle, was one color on one side and one color the other, was party. P-A-R-T-I, I think. I could be wrong. It could be spelled with a Y, but I want to say it was like with an I. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I remember the word was party colored, and then you'd list the two colors or whatever. That's kind of what the little split down the center is making me think of. I didn't necessarily mean for all, it to be so obviously, but these are 4 different fabrics. This is with notes and stars on one side of the head. This is the same pattern, but in a reverse, with the brown as the background and then the white and orange. This side of the body is a mustard yellow with the records, whereas this side of the body is the white background with the guitars and ukuleles or whatever stringed instruments were there. So I actually do have, but if I were planning this out, because again, this was just, brain was on randomizer, basically. I just said match things up, see where they fit. I probably would have preferred him to be kind of like crossways, but I don't know. It's still kind of cute. And then like all the insides of the arms ended up being, well, 3 out of the 4 are record fabric, but then all the outsides are the white fabric. So I don't know. And then I got one white ear and one, yeah, I didn't plan it like that. It's just, it really was just kind of how, when you have 4 fabrics and, you know, that's just kind of how it worked out. But I think he's adorable. But anyway, I would love to hear feedback on whether you think this, whoops. Okay, so let's do an unofficial poll. Flat front, the flat facing front, or kind of move the arms around, swing them this way, Bella, or the curved facing front. I don't know. If you want to weigh in, I'd love to hear your opinions. If not, well, that's okay too. And just because I hear your opinions doesn't mean that I may go off in a completely different direction. Right now, I'm feeling the curved front with, you know, a slight alteration. But either way, it gives them a good base, and if I keep the limbs jointed, it could go either way. I don't know. Until I put the face on it, and in which case that kind of matters. But if I can determine how I want the head to be able to swivel, I mean, we don't want like the whole Linda Blair poltergeist thing going necessarily, but I could offer some options. I could make it optional, except for where the tails are concerned. See, the tail matters. That can be taken out of context. We're just going to go with it. Yeah, the tail placement matters. Kind of looks like a little hook or a shepherd's crook. But really, I just didn't want some, you know, just long tube of fabric and stuffing. I wanted it to have some shape and some character and attitude of its own. So yeah, I just anyway, I know I've said it probably half a dozen times already, but this makes me happy. This makes me so happy. It is honestly another step to the realization of a childhood, a teenage goal. And sometimes those aren't meant to be continued with. They were a goal for a time, and we let them go and we find new goals. It really makes me happy to be moving forward with a goal I had back when I still thought anything was possible. I knew what was practical, but I still dreamed of anything being possible. And this reconnects me with that. That just occurred to me. But yeah. So, bye for now. I think I'm going to close with that. I'm going to keep working with this over the next week. I also have some other things, of course, to work on, always. But that's it for me. That's it for a week. Like I said, I think this is week 7 update. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. What have you been up to? I'd love to hear about it. I really would. I'm not just saying that. I really do want to know what you guys are up to. Folks, not guys. I'm trying to stop you saying guys. But yeah, I want to hear from you if you want to share. And I will be back in another week with another update and maybe a decision on front or back. on Mr. Monkey here, on this little critter, and maybe maybe a bigger one to share. I have, beyond just the crazy quilting on the pieces, I have another little facet, another little thing that I want to happen for the larger versions. And I don't even know how big I want to go. I know probably about, okay, at least this high, but I don't know. I haven't fully decided. But yeah, we're gonna keep going, and I don't know where this is gonna end up. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep trying, and I hope you keep trying. Take care of yourself. We have one more week left in February, and then, oh my goodness, we're 2/12 or 1/6 of the way through the year. How crazy is that? How hard to believe is that? Yeah, but take care of yourself. Do what you need. For me, what I need is creativity every day. I think that would help a lot of people, but you know, everybody's different. So find the thing that you need and do it. Make time for it. Make time for yourself. Be good to yourself. Be good to those you love. And because the world is just such a mess right now, be kind to the people that you don't even know. Be kind to the people that you may dislike. Trust me, I get it. That's hard. But let's all try and be a little bit kinder. If for no other reason, then it'll drive our enemies crazy. All right. Until next time, have a good one. I'll see ya. Bye.